Hello and welcome, I'm your CodeMonkey. In this lecture we're going to create a nice UI visual to display our waiting recipes. Okay, so our delivery manager is already working. We are randomly spawning some random recipes every once in a while. Now instead of looking at the console, let's add a proper UI. So for that, over here in the editor, let's go inside the canvas. And by the way, let's click on the button to unlock the canvas. And this is actually the first time we're using the regular canvas. Quite a while ago we just created it, we didn't really set it up, so let's quickly do that. For the render mode, this one is meant to be a regular UI, so let's leave it on the screen space overlay. Then over here on the canvas scaler, instead of constant pixel size, let's go with scale with screen size. Then for the reference resolution, I like to use 1920 by 1080. And finally, I like to fully match with the height. Basically, this means that objects in the canvas will only be scaled if the height changes. For example, let's add inside just a quick UI image just to test. Let's look in the game view. So there you go, there's the image. Let's just put it on a different color. Okay, so there's the image. And note how if I modify the aspect ratio here, so let's say I put it on 5:4, there you go, the horizontal size of the window changed, but note how the element was not scaled. So I can put it even on free aspect, so really wide and does not change the size. Whereas if I modify this, if I modify the vertical size, the image does indeed get scaled up or down. Personally, I like the setup because it means that I only have to worry about positioning things horizontally. If the vertical part gets changed, everything gets automatically scaled. Okay, so great. So over here, let's go back into Full HD, all right, and let's get rid of the image, all right. Back in the scene view, let's quickly look at the canvas, so we can select the canvas, press the F in order to zoom out, and also we can press the 2D button up here to go into 2D mode. Okay, so here's our nice UI. Now inside the canvas, let's create an empty game object, call it the Delivery Manager UI. Then in the inspector, let's make it stretch to occupy the whole thing, so let's put 0 on everything. Okay, so this window now occupies the entire screen. Now inside, let's do just like we did a while ago for the plate icons, meaning let's make the template that we can then clone, but let's also put those templates inside of a container. So first of all, let's make the container, so a new empty game object, call it just the container. The reason why I'm going with this approach is because I also want to have other objects outside of here. If you remember how we did with the templates, we can actually go there and see. So let's go inside the prefabs, inside the counters. Actually, it's on the kitchen objects. Let's go inside the plate. Over here for the template, basically we use the plate icons UI, this main canvas as the container. But if you remember how we did that, in order to make sure we didn't end up with duplicate icons, we always destroy the previous one when we spawned a brand new one. So every time we were cycling through the children of this object in order to destroy all of them except the template. So over here we're going to use a container so that we can apply that logic only to the children of the container, and that way we can have other objects outside of the container. For example, outside of here, let's say we want some nice text just saying recipes in waiting. So on the Delivery Manager, let's make it a child of that one. Let's go into UI and let's make a text Mesh Pro. And this is the first time that we're using Mesh Pro, so this window pops out. Let's actually import the Mesh Pro Essentials. Okay, just let it import. Okay, that's it. We don't need the examples or extras, so let's just close this window. And over here on this window, let's name this the title text. Let's set the text to something like recipes waiting. Let's put it up there on the corner, so let's anchor it on the top left corner. Also for the text, I like to put it on a width and height of 0, but of course that makes the text really vertical. So then down here on the wrapping, let's just disable it. So there you go, looks like that, and let's put it over there on that corner. Now in scene view, we are seeing things different. So if you want to see what this looks like, just go into the game view, and over there, yep, we do see the recipes. Let's just make it in bold. So there you go, just some nice text. Okay, so that's our text, and then for the container, let's make inside the delivery template. So let's create an empty game object. Let's call it the recipe template. And for this one, we're going to want to anchor it to the top left corner. So with the template selected over here in the inspector, let's click, and we want to click up here. However, we also want to set the pivot. So let's make sure to hold down Shift in order to set the pivot over there. Okay, great, that's exactly what we want. So we want the template right on the corner. Then let's give it a size of say 250 by 100, okay? Now inside the template, we just need two things. We want the name of the recipe as well as the list of all the ingredients. Although before that, let's actually make a nice visual for the background. So a new UI image for the background. Let's make this one stretch to occupy the whole thing. Let's put everything on 0. Okay, that's the background. Let's put it on a black with just a little bit lower alpha. Okay, that's good. Then for the name, let's make a text field. So inside the template, let's create another text. Call it the recipe name text. Then over here, let's put it a bit small, so on a font size of maybe just 20. Let's put it in bold. And let's also again put the width and height of 0, and over here make sure to disable wrapping. Okay, so that's the text, so we've got it up there. Let's just anchor it to the top left corner. Okay, great. Over here we can change the name to recipe. And then what we need is the icons down here. And for that we're going to do pretty much the exact same thing that we did on plate. But before we do that logic, let's just get this basic setup working. So let's just position everything. So first of all, the container for all the templates, let's anchor it on the top left corner. And let's push it all the way over there. And for positioning them, let's use this time the vertical layout group. So inside, let's duplicate the template just to be able to see them. Okay, so that's pretty much what we want. We can actually set the width and height both to 0. And let's set the spacing to something like 30. Okay, so that's our basic UI. Now let's make the script to run this. So over here in our scripts, let's create a brand new C# script for the Delivery Manager UI. Let's go into the parent game object and let's attach the script. Let's open. Okay, so now here, first we need a field for the container and another one for the template. So let's do a serialized field, private transform for the container, and another one for the transform, and this is going to be the recipe template. Then let's do pretty much the same thing we did previously. So first of all, let's actually go on awake in order to hide the template. So game object set active into false. Okay, so first we hide the template. Then let's make an update visual function. So private void update visual. And for updating, we're going to do the exact same thing that we did. So first, let's cycle through the container and destroy everything except for the template. So do a for each transform child in the container. And if the child is the template, if so, then we're going to continue. And if not, we're going to destroy the child game object. Okay, so we have the cleanup. Now all we need is to cycle through all of the waiting recipes. So that means that over here on Delivery Manager, we need to expose our waiting recipe SO list. So let's go down here, make a function to do that. Public going to return a list of recipe SO, get waiting recipe SO list, and we just return the waiting recipe SO list. Okay, great. So now here on the UI, we can now go into Delivery Manager, access the static instance in order to get the waiting recipe SO list. So let's cycle through this. So do a for each recipe SO in the waiting recipe SO list. And for each of them, let's instantiate and let's spawn our recipe template, spawn it inside the container. And then we just need to set this to enabled. So let's grab the transform for the recipe transform. We grab this one, grab the game object and set active into true. Okay, so like this, the only thing missing is the text, but that's okay for now. Let's just see where we're going to call this function to update the visuals. And as usual, we want to be smart and write some good clean code. So let's not do the dirty approach of just updating this on every single update. Instead, let's only call this function when something actually changes. So over here on the Delivery Manager, let's just make some simple events. So public event handler. Let's call on recipe spawned. And another one, call it on recipe completed. And actually, as soon as I add the event handler, which also add the using system, now here we have an interesting thing. We've got a nice namespace collision. It's telling us that random is an ambiguous reference between UnityEngine.random and system.random. That is because both these namespaces, UnityEngine and system, both of them have a class named exactly random. So the code here does not know which class we're trying to use. To solve this conflict, we really just need to be more specific. In this case here, we want to use the UnityEngine version, so let's just write the full name UnityEngine.random. And yep, that works. Okay, so now let's fire off the events. So first of all, the onRecipe spawns over here. When we spawn a recipe, let's invoke this event. So this event.targs.empty. And let's also get rid of the log. We no longer need that. Okay. Now we could also add the waiting recipe on the event targs, but in this case we don't need it. Just firing the event is enough. And then down here, when the player delivers something, if the player delivers the correct recipe, we remove it from the list. And then let's fire off the event. So onRecipe completed. Let's invoke with this and event.targs.empty. Okay, so we have the event, and down here we also don't need a log. Okay, so that works. And finally, over here on the Delivery Manager UI, let's just make a private void start. On start, going to Delivery Manager, access the static instance, and listen to both these events. So the spawned, and let's also listen to the other one. So Delivery Manager instance on recipe completed. When either of these work, let's just go and update the visual. So just like this. Let's also rename this because again, instance doesn't sound like a very good name. Let's actually rename this to Delivery Manager And same thing up here. By the way, I'm using the Visual Studio shortcut Ctrl-RR in order to rename this to Delivery Manager. And finally, we also need to update the visual on start, just to make sure the previous ones do not show up. Okay, that's it. So like this, it should be working. We should be able to see no visual, and then as more are spawned, we should be able to see each one being spawned until the maximum. So let's see. Just over here in the UI, let's make sure to drag the references, so the container and the template, and let's hit on play. And okay, right away, actually it spawned one recipe, it spawned instantly. Then after 4 seconds, there you go, a second one. And after 4 seconds, we should be able to see, yep, another one. Now 4 more seconds, and we should see the final one. And now, no matter how long we wait, it should no longer spawn anymore. And yep, that works. All right, awesome. So the basic logic is working. Now let's handle the proper logic on the template. For that, like I mentioned previously, one approach would be over here. You could go and do a transform.find, find the actual recipe name text, then get the text mesh component and set it. That would work, but like I mentioned previously, that would be very dirty, not good at all. We should avoid using find at any time, and we should also avoid the individual logic from the total logic. So let's do it properly and make a proper script to handle each spawn template. So let's create a brand new C# script. Call this Delivery Manager Single UI. Single just because it refers to a single recipe. And also right now we already have quite a few UI scripts, so let's organize our project again. So let's organize a new folder for the UI, and inside let's put all of our UI scripts. So Delivery Manager Single, this one, the plate icons, and the progress bar. So let's put all of these nicely organized in the UI folder. Okay, so with the script, let's go into the recipe template and attach the script. Now let's open. And over here, let's begin by adding a field for our text. So a serialized field. And over here, it's also very important. For the text, we are not using the text inside Unity Engine.ui. This is the legacy text. It is not TextMesh Pro, so this is not what we were using. Instead, we want to use TextMesh Pro UGUI, which is inside TM Pro. So we need to go up here and add using TM Pro, and now we can use this type. And also make sure you're using TextMesh Pro UGUI and not TextMesh Pro. This one also exists, but don't mix these two. These are two very different types. If we go over here in the editor, and if outside the canvas, if I just create a new 3D object, a new text object, if I do that, then if we look over here in the inspector, we see this one is of type TextMesh Pro. Whereas for the ones that we're using inside the canvas, if we look, this is TextMesh Pro, it's a UI text. So these are the two different classes within TextMesh Pro. You have TextMesh Pro and TextMesh Pro UGUI. We're working on the UI, so we want this one. Okay, so we named this the recipe name text. Okay, that's it. Over here in the editor, let's drag our reference, all right. So in the script, let's make a function to set the recipe. So a public void, and let's call it setRecipeSO. And we're going to receive a recipe.so. Then we just go into the recipe name text, and we set the text to recipe.so.recipe_name. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Now over here on the UI script, when we instantiate our recipe transform, let's get component of type of our Delivery Manager Single UI and call setRecipeSO and pass in the recipe.so. Okay, so let's see if the name shows up. And yep, right away it does show up, so we can see that we generated a cheeseburger recipe and right now a mega burger recipe. Okay, great. So all that's left are the icons down here. So like I said, that is going to be yet another usage of our template pattern. So inside the recipe template, let's create an empty game object, call it the icon container, and then inside that, let's make the template, and template is just going to be an image, so we can just create an image straight away. Call it the ingredient image. Let's scale it with a size of 40 and 40. Let's put an image by default, just like that. And on the icon container, let's put the width of 0, height of 0, and let's put a horizontal layout group. Put it over there on the left side, and we can create a bunch more just to see how it looks. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Now over here on the single script, let's add a serialized field, private transform for the icon container, another one for the icon template. Then we do the same thing as usual. So when we set the recipe.so, let's first of all clean up the container. So let's do a for each transform child in the icon container. And if the child is the template, then we want to continue and ignore it. If not, we want to destroy the child.game object. Okay, so that's a cleanup. And then let's do a for each kitchen object SO in the recipe so.kitchen object SO list. Cycle through all of this, let's instantiate our icon template. Instantiate it inside the icon container. So this is going to be the transform for the icon transform. Then as usual, we need to go into the game object, set active in order to enable it. And also let's go up here, make a private void awake, and on awake the icon template game object, let's disable it. Okay, we don't want the template to be visible. Okay, so we instantiate the template, we set it as active. Then since this one just has an image, we can just do a get component of type image. That's image, not image conversion. So image, so it's this one, the one inside unityengine.ui. So let's get this image. And let's modify the sprite and set it to this kitchen object so.sprite. Okay, so that's it. That should do it. Let's test. Over here in the editor, let's just go into the template. Let's drag the container reference and the template reference. And let's also rename this instead of ingredient image, put icon template just to be a bit more clear. And we can get rid of the other ones or leave them. Doesn't really matter. Okay, great. So let's hit on play and see. And yep, right away it does work. So we can see a burger is composed of a burger and a bun. A salad, yep, there you go, some sliced cabbage and sliced tomatoes. Then cheeseburger, same thing as the burger with some cheese. And then another burger, let's just deliver until we see the mega burger. So let's deliver a cheeseburger, let's cut it. Get this, get some bread, place it in there, pick it up before it burns. That's a cheeseburger, so that one should vanish. And yep, there you go, it does vanish. Let's see if something else, not a cheeseburger, so let's keep doing until we get the mega burger, just to see that everything works. So let's deliver a regular burger. Okay, now let's deliver a regular salad. Okay, just pick up like that, and drop it. Okay, let's see. And yep, there it is, the mega burger. Alright, great. So the visual logic is fully working and the delivery logic, all of it is working. So I can deliver the right recipes and get rid of them from the recipe waiting list, and more are spawned every time. Here we can see the name of the recipe as well as all of the nice icons. Okay, so with all of this, our game is really taking shape. Everything is very close to being done. One massive thing we're still missing is an obvious one, which is sound. So let's do that in the next lecture. Hey again, quick intermission. You're almost at the end, so once again, congrats for making it this far. This is the second secret callout. Go ahead, post in the comments a timestamp and a nice monkey emoji. It will be fun to see how many people make it to this point. By now you already know about the website. I hope it's been very useful to you. And you already know to ask any questions in the comments if you need help with anything. So all that's left for me to say right now is thanks for watching the course so far, and I really hope you've already learned a ton. There's only a bunch more lectures until we get to the final polished game, so let's continue on the next lecture.